Hey everybody, have you ever wondered what it takes to stay warm in an RV during the winter time? Well, stay tuned because we got some tips for you. Hi everyone, I'm Tim.
I'm Gail, and you are chasing the Joneses.
You know, on this special episode, we've been camping out in the wintertime here in the snow and cold weather. So in this episode,
very cold weather.
In the very cold weather, yes. In this episode, we wanted to bring you 7 tips of how to stay warm in your RV while you're winter camping. And it's important tips, I think.
Absolutely important tips. And these are really geared toward people who don't expect to do this all the time. Right. So they're cost-effective ways, but they would also work for people that try to winter all the time. I'm not sure why they do that, but
why they do that, yeah, I don't know.
Some people like winter.
Some people like winter sports, and so they go on winter camp and doing those winter sports kind of things. But you know, that's them. But we have a list of 7 things that we think that will help you stay warm as you winter camp, either this year, next year, or even in the future.
Correct.
So the first step, I think, is most important. I get a lot of questions about this. We see a lot of questions on Facebook chatter and stuff like that about space heaters. Right. And space heaters is a #1 way that you can stay warm during the winter camping time. Now, there's a lot of discussion about which is the best space heater, which isn't the best space heater, and all of these. Well, we have 2, and we have one that is in the living area, and then also we have one that is in the bathroom. It's a very small one, and the bathroom is about that big. It doesn't oscillate or anything like that, and it just sits there. What?
Oscillate.
Yeah, what she said. And so it just sits there and it doesn't do anything. Now, the one that we have here is a floor model. It's a tall one, and it does do that turning around.
Because here's the thing. You don't want to heat your entire rig the entire day if you don't have to. So the cool thing about the space heaters is you can put that where you are.
Right. So
that you have the warmth where you actually need it, but then you're not burning up extra propane.
Right. This brings us to #2, which is having an extra propane tank.
Yeah, because sure enough, if you're going to run out of propane, you will run out in the middle of the night, in the rain, in the cold, and you don't want to have to go somewhere and try to figure out who's open to get propane. So you do want to have an extra tank. We have a 40-pound extra tank that is always standing by and filled. So if our bigger tank goes empty, that is our bridge.
That is our,
And there's also in that is managing how much propane you use in the day.
Right, you have to manage your propane. So that what we do here is what we use our space heaters during the daytime, and then in the evening, at night before we go to bed, we use the heater mostly because we don't want the space heaters to run during the night. We've already had a problem once that we had a space heater plugged into an extension cord. And it was, fortunately, it was during the day, and I could smell it, but it started to burn a little bit. It started to melt, and it was almost ready to catch on fire when I just caught it.
So well, don't do that. Yeah.
I guess that's a way to stay warm too, is to set your rig on fire. But
you don't want to do that at night.
You don't want to do that at night either, right? So we shut those off during night, and we use the propane heater as well. Now, some rigs come with an electric and gas propane heater system. And which is a good thing to be able to use, and so you wouldn't necessarily need to use all the space heaters and things like that. But that is an extra way. Keeping an extra propane tank eliminates the issue of running out during the middle of the night while you cannot get any extra, so you're stuck.
Oh, you know what? There's just as a plug for an upcoming video, PT is going to be taking out the old television in the console of our rig, and he's going to be inserting one of those gas log beautiful fireplaces. So stand by for that.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one too. Yeah. Which brings us to #3 is a dehumidifier.
Yes, very important.
Very important.
Humidity will kill an RV.
Yes, it will. And many people have put all kinds of things, you know, on Facebook and all kinds of other places on social media about the issue of humidity in the RV.
Yes.
Now, we have 2, and we keep one in the bathroom, when we're taking showers and such. You have a vent, you can turn that fan on and vent all that out. But we keep that dehumidifier going in the morning to vent all that moisture out of the air. And then we have one here in the front of our rig that handles all the windows and everything, because when you wake up in the morning from having that heat on and the coldness, you find that most of your windows have condensation on them, and because of that condensation, water, and so it's all this stuff that breeds mold and things like that. So you need to have a dehumidifier, and it helps you stay warm. It keeps the air drier, less.
So it's a dry heat.
So it's a dry
heat. Yeah. Like they say in Phoenix.
That's right, yeah. So it's a Phoenix kind of heat. No, I'm just kidding. So that, which takes us to number 4, because number 4 is very important too. We've learned this lesson, especially me. I've learned this lesson here, is that, that's me. Anyway, it is having an electric throw blanket.
Yes,
right?
Ladies, you understand probably what I mean. There's times when we are super hot and your husband is wanting to turn up the heat. Well, I can only take off so many clothes. And so we found a way to preserve our marriage, which is that I went and purchased an electric throw blanket for him.
And so when we're laying around in the evening and I feel, a little bit cold or whatever, instead of getting up and turn on the heat, turn it up, I then just plug in the little throw and throw it on there, and it keeps me nice and toasty and warm. And
I can sit here and be cool without having to whine and fuss about who touched the thermostat.
Yeah. Now let's talk about an emergency issue.
Okay.
What happens if all your propane runs out and you have, and maybe your heaters broke down, or let's talk about if there's an emergency that you have to get out. I mean, there's a massive snowstorm coming or something like that, and you have to really get out quick. Well, in that emergency system, and even staying warm, you need to have your fuel topped off on your rig. It's very, very important you do that, because what if you have to leave immediately? You don't have time to be running to the gas station to fill up, the 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 gallon tank that you have. You need to have that on board. Plus, if something breaks down or you need to warm up real quickly, you can turn on the engine and turn on that heater. Right, ours is that way. Yeah. And so you can turn on that heater, and it will help you stay warm. So this is kind of an emergency thing. It doesn't help you stay warm necessarily, but it's an emergency thing that we have to take care of.
And we discovered that, not the hard way, but we realized that, the last thing you want to do when you pull in someplace is stop and top off your tank. But we are pledging to ourselves to do that, and that doesn't matter where you are. Because if for some reason the SHTF, you want to be able to stay in place and not look for fuel, or to get 200-300 miles up the road before you have to start looking for fuel.
Right. And so a lot of people have onboard generators as well, and you turn on that generator, and that generator uses the fuel from the gas tank.
Correct.
So you want to make sure you have it topped off, just in case there's any emergencies that happen, that you need to engage with anything to either charge your house batteries, or the heat, or to get your generator going, or whatever the case may be. You need to have that topped off.
Yeah, so make that a priority as you're pulling in from now on.
Yeah. So that brings us to number 6, the 6th tip that we want to talk to you about today, and that is skirting.
Yes.
Now, we did a video earlier about winterizing your RV, and talked about skirting, and about how we did it on a budget.
Yes.
But make no qualms about it. You need to have some type of skirting around your rig.
Absolutely.
And there are different types.
Yes.
So
we calculated we spent less than $100, but then we've seen for our rig, which is 35 feet, we've seen upwards of $2,000 that you could spend for that exact, not the same, it won't look as good, granted, I mean it'll look differently, but to serve the same purpose.
Serve the same purpose, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so it's very important to have skirting, because the wind goes up underneath your RV, and it creates this cold area underneath your RV, and it keeps the bottom cold, and this skirting prevents that.
Yes.
And I've heard of other people putting space heaters underneath the skirting to try and keep it warm underneath there.
Or a light, big lighting.
Or big lights or something like that in order to do that. So make no marks about it. You need to have some type of skirting. Now there are some skirtings where
the insulation
panels, yeah.
Those are kind of pricey, we found out.
They are.
And really, unless you got a really good place to store them, you might want to kind of think of those as one-time use.
Yeah,
only.
also, yeah. Because let's just face it, you don't have a place to store, I mean, something like that going all the way around your rig.
Right.
I mean, then there's the professional way of doing it, and then of course there's plastic, there's tarps. I've seen all kinds of different things, and we went and got we actually got we repurposed a billboard that was hanging out on the highway earlier. What we did was we contacted one of the local billboard companies, and yes, it turns out they sell those because they don't need them, and we got our tarp for $25.
Yeah. This is a 68 by, I think, 40-foot tarp, and it actually was big enough, one tarp was big enough to take care of skirting the entire thing.
And
but he'll show you a whole,
and we had extra.
And there's still enough to do another whole side.
But you know, you check out our other video on that about winterizing your RV, and you'll see that whole thing on there when we talked about it.
And then he's going to do a review video on how we actually went about doing it too.
And that brings us to tip number 7. Seven, the last step, and last tip, should I say, for keeping warm during winter camping, and that is sealing up the gaps.
Yes.
You know, it's very, very important that you seal up the gaps, and there are plenty of gaps when it comes to a motorhome, an RV.
Because they're not really meant for
they're not
being
meant
in
for
the winter.
And so they're good gaps, and you know, and things like that. And one of the gaps that I found when I walked in one day, and I mean, it was hot in here, and the furnace was just blowing and blowing. It wouldn't shut off, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it until I took the cap off of the thermostat, and I found that the cold air was coming up from behind the thermostat and keeping the thermostat cold, even though it was hot out here. And so we had to seal up that hole. That's what I mean by sealing the gaps.
Yeah.
You got to find the gaps in your RV and seal those up. Well,
and think about it; those are those same holes where varmints can get in. So you definitely want to look for those.
One of those gaps is, of course, your steps and your door.
Right.
And you need to be able to seal that up. And I built a thing with carpet on it, and it sets right on top of the steps. And of course, we have curtains by the door, so it plugs up the air coming through the curtains. And we did some other things with the steps that you can find out in that winterizing video as well. We'll put the link to that down below. But also some other things is at the front of the cab. The front of the cab is a bad place to not cover up because of the cold air coming in from the engine area and through the vents and things like that. One of the things you need to do is to take your venting knob and turn that off, so it shuts off that portion of air
Never
coming
would have thought
in.
of that.
And the other thing, what we did is we took foam board.
Check this out.
Yeah, and we took
Where'd
foam
you put
board.
it?
It's right over there.
Oh, okay.
You can grab it if you will.
We
took foam board and we put it underneath the area. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. What are they?
Dollar Tree.
Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
I mean, very simple, very easy, $1, you know. And what we do is we took them and put them underneath the cab, and so it prevents that air from coming across the floor, which helps out tremendously when you're doing that.
And I don't know if you knew this, but we're sitting in our slide, and we would feel a draft back here, and I put 3 of them right along the wall back behind the slide or back behind the sofa, and it has made a big difference too. So we've got the skirting on the outside, and then we've got this Dollar Tree $3 worth of foam board on the inside, which you don't see, but if you did, it's just black. It's no big deal, and that's actually helping to just protect that draft from the draft as well.
And so those are 7 steps on how you can stay warm. If you have tips yourself, if you've done winter camping before and you have some tips maybe we didn't think of or we're not doing, please let us know what your tips are.
Please do.
So that we can, when we probably go around and do this again some other time, we will add those tips in and help share those tips with the RV world and people who are interested in doing RV, or people who are newbies, or people who are looking forward to one day living in their RV full time.
Living the dream.
Living the dream.
Living the dream.
Hey, yeah.
Lord willing, we'll be following up with a tip with a video on how to stay cool.
How to stay cool with one air conditioner.
We don't know when that's going to be.
Right.
Okay.
Soon, hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Especially somewhere about June time, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
When the summer comes, we'll talk to you about how to stay cool in a hot box of an RV. How about that?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, listen, if you have tips or tricks, please put that on there. If you have any comments, let us know. And as always, we appreciate you so much for letting us into your life.
Yeah.
And to be able to share with you the things that are going on in our RV, as well as hopefully helping you do some things in your RV.
Right.
And so, listen, don't forget, subscribe if you haven't subscribed before. Hit that notification bell so that you will get notified when we post other videos.
Yes. Don't forget to like. Did you say like?
Like, I didn't.
And
like.
Comment. All of those things help us to be noticed a little more.
That's right. Help us to be noticed more. So we're trying to grow this YouTube channel, and I hope that you will help us do that as well.
God
Well,
bless
if you
y'all.
enjoyed that video, let us know.
Yes.
And we will
See you down the road.
Down the road.
Bye.